Now, with this book of Amos, we've completed our 19th book of the Bible. How proud of you are you? I know I'm proud of me, and I'm proud of you as well for sticking with this. Now, Amos condemned the rich and powerful leaders for living in luxury gotten from practicing violence and ignoring the poor. Israel felt safe in the mountains of Samaria, and Judah felt at ease in Zion. The people were so deep in their own sin that they were now indistinguishable from the pagan nations, and that is so ironic. Amos had visions, and the visions foretold of destruction. The first vision of the locust swarms and the second vision of the fire, which referred to war or drought, had Amos interceding with one word pleas to God. He said, forgive. So for the first one, cease. And the Lord relented and altered the course of his judgment and altered the course and cancelled the judgment. He had mercy on the people because of Amos's plea for the first and the second visions. With the vision of the plumb line, God stood as a building inspector and tested Israel's straightness, i.e. Israel's righteousness, and Israel failed the test. Therefore, impending judgment was inevitable, and Amos got this and didn't plead for mercy at this time because God had shown him how certain he was that the destruction just had to happen. The encounter between Amos and Amaziah, the priest, Amaziah was the priest who was appointed by the king, right? And the confrontation between them was actually quite interesting. He accused Amos of being a traitor because he couldn't tolerate a real prophet of God as far as I was concerned. He and the others who served the kings were basically just sycophants. They were telling the king what he wanted to hear. So Amos, coming out of the prophetic blue, was obviously making them look bad. And so he wanted Amos out of the picture. So he advised him to go to Judah there and earn a living as a prophet there. And Amos had to correct him that I'm not trying to earn a living, because Amos appeared not to be poor because he was a sheep farmer and a sycamore fig farmer and a sheep breeder. So I don't think he was poor. So he tried to tell him that, listen, I'm not here trying to eke out a living right now. I was sent by God. Unbeknownst to him, he wasn't just rejecting Amos, and this is Amaziah now. He wasn't just rejecting Amos's words, but he was actually rejecting the authority of God, and that caused personal judgment to him and also to the nation, because God told him, your wife is going to be a harlot in the streets. You and your children will be killed. And by the way, Israel will still go to exile. So at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, priest or not priest, my word will still stand. In the vision of the summer fruits, judgment was an accomplished fact. It wasn't negotiable, just like with the plumb line. God, through Amos, used the play on words to convey his message. Now, the Hebrew word for summer fruit is the same as end. So like the summer fruits, the end for Israel had come. The vision was followed by an indictment of Israel, with God saying why this judgment will come and, the sins that were causing the judgment. In the final chapter of Amos, the Lord appeared at the altar to announce the total destruction of Israel in a fifth and final vision. None would be able to escape. This judgment was certain, and there was no hiding place for anyone. But beyond the judgment, hope existed for Israel. The earlier message of judgment in Amos 5:11 contrasted with the restoration message in 9:14. In 5:11, it says you would build houses you wouldn't live in. You will plant vineyards that you will not drink from, etc., etc. But then in 9:14, it says you will drink from your vineyards. You will eat you will live in your houses, you will eat from your farms and so on, which was ultimately saying that judgment wasn't the end for the Israelites. God's ultimate goal was restoration. Amos saw the restoration of Israel as complete and permanent. The end of the book gives the people a vision of God, of what was to come, so that they didn't lose hope, so that they didn't think that the judgment was the ultimate destruction and the end of them as a people. Now here's my hashtag getting to know God lesson. The day of the Lord's judgment is prophetically described by Amos in 8:8-14. And if you read closely, you see the similarities there between the day of the judgment of the Israelites and the day of the crucifixion of Christ in the New Testament. The sun was going down at noon. The Passover feast became a feast of mourning, and it was mourning like for the firstborn son. On the day of Christ's crucifixion, God's judgment was what was happening, because God was judging our sins on Christ. But afterwards, he rose from the dead, and that was our sign of redemption. See? The book of Amos has shown how God will bring judgment to his people for their sins, but the Lord's judgments have a redemptive purpose in the lives of his people. So we should know this. If only the Israelites knew, but then mirroring it. You know how they say that the Old Testament is like a mirror of the New Testament is a mirror of the Old, and we are living in the times of fulfillment. So I'm so glad and so happy to know that judgment is not the end. There is redemption for us who have chosen to walk with Christ. Thank you for joining me today. Tomorrow we'll go back to 2 Chronicles and Isaiah 9-12. I look forward to seeing you here. Have a wonderful day. Bye.